Hello, it's Julie from Blossom Tree Papercraft. Thank you for joining me today. Today I'm going to make just a very simple diagonal pocket fold card, and I'm going to be using the Bloomin' Love stamp set and the Bloomin' Heart Thinlits, which can be bought as a bundle from Stampin' Up. So I'll put them to one side and I'll run through the bits that you need. For your base card, you're going to need a piece of cardstock that measures 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2. Then for the inside of your card, you're going to need a piece of designer series paper, and I'm using this from the Love Blossoms, or is it Bloomin' Love? Can't remember. I will write it all down on my blog though for you. And this needs to measure 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. Then for your actual little card that slips down inside the pocket fold, you will need a piece of cardstock that measures 5 1/8 by 3 7/8. Take that off of there. Then another 2 little pieces, just measuring 1/2 inch, and you're going to need 2 of them. Not to worry about the length of these, because we can trim them off as we're popping them on. Then you're just going to need a piece of white cardstock, which is 2 inches by 3 3/4, and a piece of the Blushing Bride, which is 2 1/4 by 4 1/8. You'll then need just a few pieces of scrap cardstock as well, which we will use for your Thinlit die as well. Anyway, let's get going. So, taking your base card, which I've already scored here at the 5 1/2 mark and folded, what we're going to do when you're looking at it, ignore the left side, concentrate on the right, and on this bottom corner here and on this far edge, we need to come up about 1 inch up this side and just mark a little space. So all I do is I use my grid paper, but you can use a ruler if you wish. Just offering it up and then using my mark, you can't see it down here, but I've got a mark down here that says 1 inch, and I'm just putting a little mark on there so I know where that is. See that little mark just on there. Then I'm going to bring in my paper trimmer, and all I do is I line up the score mark in the centre with the track of my trimmer, and then I make sure that my little mark that I've popped in is lined up with the track again on the bottom edge. Once I'm happy with all of that, just taking my blade and then I trim that piece straight off. Move this out of the way, and then you're left with that shape there. And then we can carry on with the card now. So, taking your designer series paper, this is just going to fit straight inside, leaving a little bit of a border all the way around. So taking the snail, just going to stick that down. And then I'm going to take, if I can find it, my ink, which is Blushing Bride, and a sponge. And before I do anything else, I'm just going to sponge these edges on the front just to give a little bit of extra dimension. You don't have to do this, you can skip this part if you wish. Okay, move that out of the way. Then taking one of your pieces, the 1/2 inch strip of DSP, just going to apply some more snail, and then I'm going to pop that onto the front, but leaving a little bit of the white showing on the bottom, like that. Taking my scissors, and I'm just going to trim off the excess on either side. And then we're ready, we can then fold this part, or stick this part down. I'm going to use a little bit of sticky strip for this. I can never find the end of these. There we go. What you need to do is you need to pop this on as close to this bottom edge as you can, so that you've got room for the card insert to go inside. And then again, just on this edge here, turn that around. Using my paper piercer, lift that up. Oh, I can never get hold of it. There we go, got it. And then just bringing that over and sticking that into place, and that will give you your pocket. Then we can take your card to slip down inside, and I'm just going to pop the other piece of the 1/2 inch DSP along the bottom, and again leaving a little gap so that it matches the outside, trimming off the excess again. And then using my sponge again, I'm just going to sponge all the edges. And then I'm just going to use this very tiny flower stamp, and I'm just going to add some detail just up in this corner, and I'm just going to clump 3 of the flowers, overlapping a little bit in the corner. And then, because when the front part goes on, you're left with about half of this card for writing on the front, you can obviously turn it over and write on the back. So I'm just going to add a few more pieces of detail onto the back, just so that it runs or flows with the front. There we go. Then coming in with your other 2 pieces of card. On your white cardstock, again, I'm just taking the little flower and I'm just sort of randomly stamping just to add a little bit more detail. Just filling in some of these gaps. And then just make a pennant into the end, so I'm just going to cut into the centre and then coming from the edge to meet that cut line, doing the same on the other side to give you your pennant edge. Coming back in with my sponge again, I'm just going to sponge all the edges again. And then this piece can be stuck down onto the Blushing Bride. And then you can put in another pennant using this one as a guide. It's cutting up the centre and then running from the side again. Okay. And again, just inking up the edges. And then I'm just going to turn it over, and just on this top bit here I'm going to pop another little piece of sticky strip. And then bringing everything in, I'm just going to pop the card inside where you want it positioned. It's a bit of a tight fit, but it does fit nice and snug. And then I'm going to remove the backing strip, and then I'm going to offer the pennant up to the white card inside, just on that top edge, and bringing it over, and I suppose I'm leaving about 1/2 inch down this side, and then that's in place. And the reason that I've done that is with the other scrap pieces of card that I mentioned, and using the Thinlits, you would cut out the lovely heart. So intricate. I do love this die, it's beautiful, but the reason I've left that gap is because this is going to sit on the top, and so that it doesn't overhang. So I'm just going to stick this down with some dimensionals just to give it a little bit of height. And I can take all the backing off. And then I'm just going to position that onto the banner, like that. And actually, crafter's mistake, here we go. Because I only want it stuck onto the banner, I've mistakenly popped a dimensional on this flower here, and I don't want one there, because otherwise it's going to stick to the actual card, and you won't be able to pull out your card. So ignore what I just said, I know nothing. So don't stick one on that side so that you can not stick into the card. Anyway, moving on to the flowers. So I ended up cutting out 6 of the small flowers, and then I've just doubled them up on top of each other with a glue dot, just so that you get that sort of fluffy flower. And how I done that, I'm going to do it on the large ones, is I sponged all the edges in the Blushing Bride, and then on my foam mat, just using the back of my paper piercer, just spread around into the centre just to make them pop up. And then using a glue dot onto the back of one of the flowers, and then off centering onto the second, and then fluffing that all up like that. Then turning these all over and using glue dots again, move this over onto the back, and then just positioning onto the heart. Do that with all of these. Oops, dropping it. All fingers and thumbs today. Last 3. And then from there you could put on your Winker Stella and some little jewels in the centre of the flowers if you wish. And then all I've done is I've done a little paper clip with a bit of ribbon, which just slips down onto the card into the centre, just to give a little bit of added detail. And that's it. That's my interpretation of the diagonal pocket fold card. So when I pull it out, everything's still attached. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care. Bye bye.